Welcome to all of my devious Dynasty degenerates out there. You love that alliteration, don't you? I know you do. We are halfway through the fantasy season, and now the playoffs are on the horizon. So if you look really close, you can see them, But to get to where you want to go, or to get to where you're going, you have to know from whence you came. Some wise person in history once said that at some point. I'm pretty sure they did. I really don't know. But tonight, Rich and I, we have brought along a special guest to help us look at this season holistically, from the beginning to where we are now, and go over what we got right, what we got wrong, and, to be a guiding light to help you get to those Dynasty championships. Basically, we want you to be the opposite of Crystal Palace in the Premier League for you other football fans, Rich, my buddy, can you do me a favor right now, right? Can you treat that intro button like that little bitty wide receiver who's terrible against press? Getting off the line and press that button. Let's go. Hello again, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome, everybody who's on YouTube, or if you're listening to us via podcast, we appreciate you rocking with us tonight. We love you. We wouldn't be doing this without you. So thank you very much. To those people who are watching us on YouTube, remember to post your comments or questions or whatever you might have in the chat. It could be trades, it could be buy or sells, it could be any question that you might have. We'll answer it. We love to interact. We love you, so leave us a line. And as I said at the top of the show, tonight we brought in a special guest to drop some delicious fantasy nuggets on us, as we're in the second half of that 14-week season, and you know what? We're gonna tell you who it is, but here's a better way. Dynasty 365, brought to you by Fantasy and Frames, welcomes tonight's special guest, co-host of Operation Domination, the pod on Fantasy Sports Advice Network, as well as the content creator over at FSAN. He has a fine taste for whiskey, wine, and waiver wire. He also was pumpkin spiced out by mid-October. Even so, this dude rocks the hell out of a kilt. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chase Thornton, Fantasy Football. All right, Chase. Welcome, everybody. Our guest tonight, it is Chase Thornton. You can find him on Twitter, because I'm not going to say X, at STT_ChaseFFB. As you can see, his handle is right there. Chase, my friend, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us tonight. So how's this season treating you in your fantasy squads? And better yet, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Oh, doing real well. Like I said, it's been a long day. I barely got any sleep last night, just tossed and turned. I don't know what was going on, but I am running on the espresso right now. Duncan's getting me through this day till after I get done with my show, after we get off the air here. So, but feeling good, happy to be here. And, as far as how my fantasy season's going so far, it's going well so far. I'm pretty happy with it. My redraft leagues, I leaned pretty heavy on basically a hero running back strategy. And I was good enough to be strong enough to weather those injury storms that we've all been going through. I got a lot of Nick Chubb coming available right now. Yeah. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, but I was real aggressive with Kareem Hunt off the wire, which helped me get through some things. I'm going to be getting Cooper Kupp back in a bunch of leagues. So I'm middle of the pack in a lot of cases, but I'm ready to hit my stride with everybody coming back. A lot of teams where either my core running backs or my core wide receivers are all past their buys, so I can kind of set and forget them and focus elsewhere. Dynasty-wise, kind of a weird situation for me, but the bulk of my teams I actually picked up as orphans. So I've got a real interesting mix of teams that are kind of right there and teams that are in full-blown rebuild. So it's prime time for me to start targeting contenders, or better yet, targeting those guys who think they're contenders for trades and moving myself up a little bit. So like every year, there's weeks where I'm flying high and weeks where I wonder what the hell I'm doing with my life. But hey, can't complain so far. I'm pretty happy overall.
That is awesome. Welcome to the book. I'm in that same boat with you also, so I definitely understand what's going on. Rich, my partner in crime. Rich Sickles, how are you tonight, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So excited to be here. Talk a little football. It's been a rough week for me. I'll be honest. I was a little under the weather, so I'm happy to be back at it right now. I'll be honest.
I got you. I'm glad that you're feeling better. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you are
Sure
riding with me tonight because it gets a little interesting. We got Albert in the chat as always. Albert, hello to you, my friend. Thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us for a little bit. All right. So we are going into week 8 tomorrow, right? So we've done 7 weeks of the season. It is crazy to believe that the season has been moving so fast. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I just kind of feel like it's been a weird NFL season. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know if anybody's truly dominant, but makes for exciting football sometimes or whatever. But we'll get into the show. We'll start off with our first topic. As always, we go with the news and nuggets of the week. And the first thing we're going to talk about, as you guys saw in that Monday night game, Buccaneers receivers, Godwin and Evans both came up a little limp. But Godwin, he's done for the season. Chase, we'll come to you first. How do you feel about that? Those Bucs receivers.
Oh man, as a part-time Baker Mayfield apologist and standard bearer, it hurts. I mean, you're talking about the guy that's been the fantasy QB2 in points per game, and he's been the fantasy QB2 by far, for that matter, to be honest with everybody, if you look at the stats. And outside of that one kind of dud game against Denver in week 3, he's been outstanding. He's got 5 interceptions over 2 games, but, he was also QB2 overall both of those weeks. So you can handle those from a fantasy standpoint, unless you're a Bucs fan. The reunion between Baker Mayfield, Liam Cohen's been fantasy gold for that team. But now, of course, we're losing the league leader in receptions and the league leader in touchdowns. So we're really going to have to see what Baker and Cohen and the rest of the Bucs are made of. Let's not kid ourselves. There's no one on that roster who's going to remotely replace what Godwin and Evans were giving them, either in terms of, Godwin's ability to move the chains or Evans' ability as a deep threat or a red zone target. But besides the obvious disaster for Godwin and Evans managers, Baker's fantasy stock is just tanked, right? Mm-hmm. The backfield on that team is honestly, I think, more talented than we all maybe thought, but it's a complete crowd. They're still going to need to throw. They're going to want to throw. So they're going to need Jalen McMillan and Sterling Shepard to step up there. Personally, I like McMillan as a prospect. I think he's the primary value to be had there going forward, fantasy-wise. Shepard's a good player when he's healthy. He can be that kind of short intermediate threat, pairing with Cade Otton there to move the chains. But therein lies part of the problem, is when healthy, and that's been a major, major problem for Sterling Shepard in his career. McMillan is the lottery ticket, I think, to buy there. Shepard's only an option in deeper leagues. Right. Dynasty-wise, this might be a good opportunity to, if you own Shepard, sell him for anything. Mm-hmm. It might be a good opportunity to buy Baker Mayfield. People might be panicking a little bit. Evans is going to be back. I'm not worried about that. You're going to be missing him for 2, 3, 4 weeks here, maybe, but he might be a target to pick up there. He doesn't have a great playoff schedule, but Evans is a guy that is coming back. Godwin, on the other hand, he'll be back in the future for you if he's on your roster. He's still only 28 years old, but man, I mean, this was the perfect situation for him, playing more out of the slot this season. In that offense, and his future now being a pending free agent's in doubt in terms of where he plays, how whatever team he ends up on uses him. I'm inclined to hold off on acquiring him just yet, unless I can, get him for a real good deal. I'm only going to sell him if I get a real knockout offer, though, because he showed he still has something left in the tank.
Okay. Absolutely. Actually, quick follow-up for you, Chase. I know we said we wouldn't throw too many curveballs at you, but I just thought of it while you were talking about what we had there. Trade deadline's coming up and whatnot. Do you think the Bucs? Can you see the Bucs trading for any? Is there anybody that you hope that the Bucs might trade for?
Well, we didn't wake up to a blockbuster down their direction this morning, but we woke up to a couple of others probably. There's the Cooper Kupp scuttlebutt that's been kind of going around here. Honestly, with Liam Cohen, who knows him from being in Los Angeles, that's not the dumbest idea, Baker never got to play with him when he was there because obviously he was out by the time Baker got there in 2022. But, it would make some sense if that trade happens. I'm not overly convinced it happens quite yet, but if it does happen, I think they have to be top of the list in terms of not only likely or, destinations for fit, but also, just for a place where fantasy wise, it would really help us all out. It would make a lot of sense.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
I like it a lot also. And we're going to another pair of wide receivers that are ailing a little bit. We're going to go across the country to the Bay with the 49ers. Debo, Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk done for the season. Debo, he had pneumonia, and we don't know if he's going to get over that this week or not. How are we feeling about those 49ers wide receivers?
Yeah, ouch. I mean, my lead host, Dan Mater, is a big 49er fan. I'm a big Packer fan, so I don't necessarily feel sorry for him. But, man, you got to feel sorry for him because those guys, I mean, they have just been crushed by that injury bug so far this season. I mean, and it's every position you can think of. It just seems like a dude goes down every 15 minutes over there in the Bay. Now, Brandon Ayuk had been kind of underwhelming this season anyway for everybody who rosters him. At least, he might personally be able to feel a little better about getting the bag, this off season, but it didn't help anybody who rostered him this season. Right. We drafted him as wide receiver 15 in half PPR settings. He was a third, fourth round turn kind of pick. He didn't score you a single touchdown, and he had actually one usable game all season to this point, which hurts, And as a Debo manager, you knew you were going to be missing him here and there because you're kind of always missing Debo Samuel here and there. That's just part of rostering him. So the pneumonia thing doesn't really change my thinking on him, quite so much. I do like George Kittle to maintain that more consistent production we've seen out of him. He's not going to necessarily continue to average a touchdown per game, but with McCaffrey out, the usage pattern, I think, for Kittle has been more conducive to evening out that production instead of being, that 1 week, 8 of 9 for 98 yards and 2 scores. And then the next week being 2 catches out of 4 targets for 38 yards and a bunch of really awesome run blocks. But I like Jawan Jennings. Welcome back, buddy. I mean, yes. I like him going forward to produce more probably than Ricky Pearsall. I wasn't really all that high on Pearsall in the draft process anyway. I really soured on him when he kind of inexplicably went to San Francisco in the draft. I didn't think there was any reason for them. They drafted him to replace Ayuk, and then they brought Ayuk back. So I don't know what the hell they were all thinking there, but he's a great story coming back from taking a literal bullet through the chest.
Yes.
So good for him. It's awesome. I don't want to see anything, bad for the guy, but I've been a Jennings guy in Dynasty since that 5 touchdown rookie season he had. I like his size. I like what he has shown on the field. So I think Jennings is the one that I would be more apt to be bidding on this week in waivers or trying to trade for or whatever. They're both fine targets in Dynasty though, but that team just continues to get hammered.
Yeah, but it's always like they're always down 5 or 6 guys every season or whatever. And Mike McDaniel actually took that advice when he, the team in Miami, because nobody on that team can stay healthy either. But
the thing about the 49ers, though, is that for them, it seems like that salary cap is just a myth, that other right. people, talk about having to deal with, the Lover's Lane, monster with the hook or whatever. Yeah. They don't have to worry about it because it seems like every year they are able to reload whoever's in the most demand. Whoever's the big name on the market, it seems like always ends up in San Francisco. Yeah. And then they just continue to sign dudes. And I'm like, how can they figure out how to keep reloading when everybody else is like, well, guess we got to cut everyone you've come to know and love the last 4 years because we don't have any money.
Yep. I guess it's because when, you pay your quarterback $3.75, you can do other things.
that ain't going to be too much longer. So I hope they've enjoyed it.
That man, But, yep. Rich, I'm going to come to you on this one because I know, Deshaun, he got his Achilles decided that it didn't want to, go through that beating anymore. So he's laying on the field crying with that. I know that you love Jerry Jeudy so much. With Deshaun going down, does that break your heart? Did you expect Jeudy to be the guy when Cooper left? and he did nothing. Like, how do you feel like with the situation in Cleveland right now, Rich?
I'm actually more excited about Jerry Jeudy than I was previously, just because now he's got Jameis Winston, who just loves to sling the ball. Like, that's what he does.
Captain YOLO.
I was trying to figure out if he was actually going to be, if Judy's going to be his primary target, or if he's going to be, if Cedric Tillman is going to maybe get more work than he was getting before. But I still think that Judy's going to get a part of that. You know, he's going to get some of that Jameis Winston magic, and so yeah, I'm excited. The one thing that I wrote that I just wanted to throw in there was just that. The evil had been smote upon the mountainside. It is over. We are done. We can finally move on.
Yeah. You know, somebody on Twitter had put it perfectly, and I can't remember who it was. I feel bad not being able to give them credit for it. But they're like, have we outthought that the reason why they're not benching, Deshaun is just so he has to go out there and just get beat up and suffer and deal with the fact that he sucks at football now? Like, is that his punishment? You know, but
Yeah.
You are right. That's but somebody that we all have been loving so much this season, Jaden Daniels. So, Chase, how do you feel about Jaden Daniels with that little rib issue? Are you worried?
They don't seem all that worried, so I'm not worried. We may be missing him for a week or two here, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be something that's going to affect him too long term. I mean, rib injury in any professional sport, but with a quarterback twisting his body and that, we'll see how it comes out. But Mariota looked good, I thought, the other day in relief of him. Thank you, Cliff Kingsbury. Thank you, Tavita Pritchard. Thank you, Brian Johnson. Together with Dan Quinn, they've done a great job with that team so far, at least on the offensive side. And the defensive side, I expect to come around. But they're going to be a house going forward. I'm not worried about Daniels. He looks great. I thought it was a perfect, beautiful fit with Kingsbury. It was where I was hoping he would go when they hired Kingsbury in the offseason. And they're not worried about it, so I'm not worried about it. In fact, I'm in the Frankenstank League with the guys from Toilets to Titles, and I won my matchup this week and got to steal a player from my opponent, and I did trade Brock Purdy for Jaden Daniels going forward so that I can roll him out there once he's healthy. So,
okay, nice. I like that.
I like
that.
What
do you think about? You spoke a little bit about Mariota. What do you think about Dynasty owners that had Jaden Daniels? Should they trade for him? I actually had a trade offer today. Somebody was trying to give me Mariota and their 5th for my 4th round pick. And it wasn't, it was just garbage. And I was like, whatever, I could make that trade. But I was like, there was a part of me at the same time was like, I feel like I could get more on my bench than what I could get with Mariota. But what do you think? I mean, it sounds like you watched that game a little bit closer than I did.
It kind of depends on where your roster's at. Not just you. I mean, like the royal you, I guess.
Right.
Where are you? If you're in a spot where you're competing, maybe you didn't expect to compete, but Daniels has got you there. To take a backup like that, Mariota was a perfect fit there, I think, as a backup, being a guy who has run offenses before, been a starter before, is mobile himself. And so they didn't have to change up a ton of what they had to do bringing him in. We're going to get there in a minute, but it's the exact opposite of what's happening across the country with another quarterback situation with a guy that went down. But I think it's worth it if you're okay paying the price for it. Once you start getting to 4th and 5th round picks in Dynasty, unless you're in a 8-team league or whatever, once you start getting to 4th and 5th round picks, it's all a flip and dart throw anyway. Right. You might as well take a shot with it. If you own Mariota and you feel like you can get more for him, hold out for the right offer. But I think as a Daniels owner, it wouldn't bother me at all to have Mariota. I'd be happy if somebody wanted to offer me Mariota for a reasonable price.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to jump back on my league chat here quick. I'll be back in a minute, guys.
Well, I'm a little sensitive to quarterback questions because literally every single Dynasty team I own too is a super flex. And so, right. Quarterbacks are gold. So if you can back your dude up, that's not a bad idea.
Well, yeah.
Who would have thought in 2024 we'd be talking about Jameis and Mariota starting?
Right? Possibly like big assets coming up. Yeah.
That is great. You gotta love football. All right. O'Connell out there in the desert, out in Las Vegas. How do we feel about Aiden O'Connell right now?
this is what I was just talking about. I like Antonio Pearson, and I wish nothing but the best for him. But that team has been the exact opposite of what Washington has been doing in terms of how they've handled that quarterback position. Bringing in Minshew was the wrong move. It was weird anyway. They should have taken the year and just fully evaluated AOC and seen what they had for the future with him. Instead, we're in this situation now where they know next to nothing, honestly, about him. And they're back to using Minshew anyway, now that O'Connell's hurt. Mm-hmm. Minshew's probably the better quarterback, to be honest. But now they have to use him, and they're not any better off in any way, shape, or form based on the way they've done things. It's just yuck. Honestly, especially now that they've traded Adams, Brock Bowers is the only piece of that offense you really actually want any part of, dynasty or otherwise. But
sure. I
mean, that's a heck of a piece. Yeah. But that's really all anybody should want with that. O'Connell, I'm in all super flex leagues and dynasties, and he's young. And so if it looks like they're going to keep him around, Minshew looks like that career plan B option for everybody. He might play in the league another 10 years, but he'll never be that long-term starter.
I agree.
But yeah, that situation is just a complete and total cluster flip. Yeah.
I agree for you. Question for you. Did Las Vegas, in essence, trade Lance Aiden O'Connell?
Well, except they didn't have to spend quite so much on him as
that is true. That is
true. But I mean, they Clevelanded that dude completely. Yeah. But they should have taken, like I said, they should have taken the year. You gave him playing time last year. He wasn't a complete disaster. He didn't tank that team. That team tanked for other reasons. But again, you weren't going anywhere this season anyway.
Right.
Why not take the opportunity with the young quarterback on the roster who now had some starting experience under his belt? Why not just let him take the reins, give it to him, show that faith in him, see if he could justify that faith? But now, I mean, if they go with Minshew, like I said, he's a better quarterback. That team is still not going anywhere, but they're probably going to be better than what they were going to be, which just does nothing but hurt their draft stock and hurts their ability to now find a follow-up guy in next year's draft. They have totally fumbled that in every way, shape, or form.
I agree. Yeah. Yep. And so, like, talking about quarterbacks, who returning from injury. I can't speak. Tua Tagovailoa. If he comes back this week, which is looking like it's trending that he will be back to play, are we buying these Dolphins again, or are we just like, I'm not real sure about those guys? I'm going to defer from answering because my default is the Dolphins are going to Dolphins, and, I'm like Hootie and the Blowfish. I'm a baby because the Dolphins make me cry. So, Chase, with Tua coming back, how do you feel about Miami's skill players?
Oh, dear sweet 6 pound, 7 ounce baby Jesus, please let him come back. We need him. We need him in fantasy. Tyreek Hill and Jaden Waddle need what Tua can do. Now, Tua himself is not an exciting fantasy asset. He never really has been. Doesn't want to run, like we all maybe think he probably should, but his presence in the huddle, his command of that McDaniels offense, his connection with Hill and Waddle, they're what really allow that team's fantasy assets, and their fantasy assets are multiple. They have a lot of valuable commodities on that team, but he is what allows that team's fantasy assets to really maximize their potential. Tyreek Hill has shown that without that kind of that starting caliber quarterback that can run that offense, and he's not alone in this as a wide receiver. He's obviously only half the equation on any given throw, but without Mahomes throwing to him, without Tua throwing to him, when it's just a dude, Tyreek Hill, like most other dudes, is pretty normal because you have to be able to get him the football. Yeah. And they have not found anybody that can actually do that other than Tua. So Tua cannot come back soon enough. I left my home league, my number one home league fantasy draft with Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, and Cooper Kupp in the first 3 rounds. I thought I was flying high. Well, hopefully I get Kupp and Hill both back this week at full capacity. So, Tua can't come back fast enough for me.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier about like another trade that happened, it wasn't anything with Cooper Kupp, but DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, like Mahomes with a reliable pass catcher, maybe, who knows? How do we feel about Hopkins, joining Mahomes?
It was a good trade for them. Again, the rich get richer. They haven't been great this season, but they're undefeated. So what? I mean, how great do they have to be? They don't care about our fantasy teams. They care about their bottom line. It's going to help DeAndre Hopkins' personal fantasy value for the rest of the season, obviously. But in my opinion, he's looked past his prime for a little while now. Dynasty wise, if you've got him, see if you can take advantage of the hype and offload him, in my opinion, unless you're a surefire contender and you've got a thin wide receiver core. He's going to be more valuable wearing that red jersey than he was wearing that powder blue jersey in Tennessee. I'm not buying him at the moment for anything of value, but I did jump on because, like I said, I was tossing and turning and my ass was awake at 5:00 this morning. I did jump on a couple of places and found him on the wire and grabbed him as soon as I could without having to pay anything for him. Yeah. But if you try to buy him right now, you're the mark because you're the one who's going to be, taken advantage of buying into the hype around him right now. So he's going to be better. He should help out Mahomes, but I'm not going to jump on that and spend anything of value for it to necessarily get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree 100%. All right, fellas. So we're going to move on to our second topic of the night. And we're just going to turn back the clocks, like if I could turn. You did not know that you were going to be serenaded tonight, did you, Chase? But anyhow, if I could turn back the hands of time and we go back to the beginning of the season, the takes that we had going into the season, we might have been a little bit off. So we're going to talk about our biggest misses so far this season. We can still end up being correct, but to date right now, what is our biggest miss so far this season? Chase, we're going to start with you, sir. What's your biggest miss?
Well, it takes a big man to be introspective and admit when you were wrong. And my biggest miss, I think, so far this year, we were all, I think, were wrong on some of these guys like Laporta and Mahomes and whatever else. There were a couple that we kind of all swung and missed on. But Christian Watson, which pains me as a Packer fan and as a fantasy football guy, but Christian Watson was probably my biggest miss. I've said it since last offseason. This was a pass offense where you really wanted pieces of Jordan Love, but whoever else you wanted was going to change week to week. And I think that's borne out. But of the weapons on that team, I thought, and I still believe, that Watson has the most dynamic, most electric skill set. We've seen it. He's done it before. He's exploded, for weeks on end and that. But unfortunately, I kind of equate him to that MLB pitcher that, who has great stuff, but guy can't seem to find consistent control. And he'll go from a 12 strikeout, 2-hitter, 8 innings to walking 5 guys and giving up 3 home runs and being out by the 3rd inning, in his next start kind of thing. He's going to be really inconsistent. I really thought he was going to emerge, especially as a value at his ADP coming into the season. But instead, Jaden Reed has been the guy who's been closer to a reliable week-to-week option. And Watson, he's basically not worth a roster spot in redraft on a 12-team league here. I thought, getting him at wide receiver 40, you were going to turn out to be a big value. I've got a ton of him across my redraft teams. I was excited about my dynasty shares. I was like, okay, now here we go. I thought he'd be a great flex option cheat code. He's got 14 targets through 7 weeks. He's only missed 1 game. Dobbs missed a game too because he was pissed off about how he's getting used, and he's got 38 targets on the season. Right. Watson is the 5th option on that team in terms of individual targets. When you consider how many targets the rest of the team's gotten, he's not even that valuable. He looks like a taller and less consistent version of Deshaun Jackson, which is not anything anybody should want on their roster. He took over for Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I think, in Green Bay as that occasional deep threat who's going to drop the balls that he does see, and pisses me off because, like I said, I'm a Packer fan. I got to watch that every week. But Christian Watson was my biggest miss.
I love it. Yes, it is big of you to admit that. So, Rich, Absolutely. It's time for you to eat some crow, my friend.
I feel like I've been eating crow since the season began on this one. But you know what? I'm going to say it again. It could be Kyle Pitts, it could be Curtis Samuel, as we all know. But no, I'm going to go with Pitts. He is tight end 7 on the year, but he is a far sight from the tight end 1 that I thought he was going to be, and that I had been pounding the table saying tight end 1 this year is happening. I mean, he still has a chance to make it just because of the fact that the tight end situation around the league is just not great.
Mhm.
But it's not going to be anything pretty, and I'm not going to be, even if he makes it, I'm not going to be happy about it. I mean, he's only averaging 9.1 points per game, I believe, right now. 9.1 points per game. It's just sad of the tight end landscape in general. I still think that he's going to be a great tight end in the future, and I really hope that him and Cousins continue to grow together.
Yeah.
And he becomes that target that Hawkinson was,
Mhm.
and that Kyle Rudolph was.
Mhm.
But I was wrong. He was not tight end 1. I'm sorry. I was wrong.
You still are holding on to that hope.
I'm still holding on to that
Gary
hope.
GD hope, which is going to continue to break your heart. Just get off that narcotic. Let him go, man. Set him free, Rich.
Right.
But okay, all right. That's a good one. I mean, Pitts, yeah, you're right. You eat crow on Pitts a lot just because I don't let you forget that whole Pitts thing.
Right.
But anyhow, the player that it's a pretty big whiff, and I'm really mad because I never liked the player. Didn't like him coming out of college. Didn't really care for what he did in his rookie season, even when he got his start and everything. But for some reason this season, I was like, who's going to surprise a lot of people because the industry was down on this guy? Will the Mayor Levis. For some reason, I'm like, you know what? I'm liking Levis, and I'll tell you why I was liking Levis. I'm like, you look at the moves that the Titans were making. They were putting all the pass catchers in place. They're bringing Callahan in to bring that line up, to build that line up. And they're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, man, they are actually doing all the things that the coach is saying. Like we're going to move the ball through the air and all this stuff. And I'm like, they're going to let this dude chuck the ball. And I'm like, whether he's good or bad, if he's throwing the ball all over the field, the sheer volume will give him a decent floor. And I'm like, the price, nobody wants him, so I'm going to scoop him up in a few places, and then I'm just going to reap the rewards when I could just use him as my QB2 in a super flex, or, like a rotational player. Nope. I was wrong, because let's see what Will Levis has done this season. In 5 games, 699 yards, 5 touchdowns, 7 picks. And I'm telling you, he hasn't been as good as those stats suggest. He's absolute trash. He's only had 1 game over 200 yards passing. And then, he doesn't look good, but then he makes really, really, dumb mistakes. Like he's about to be sacked and he just throws the ball and then gets pick 6 or whatever. What is he doing? So horrible mistakes on top of horrible play makes him look worse than a rookie. It's not like a rookie mistake. And this is his 2nd season where you think that the game is going to slow down a little bit for me. He starts to understand more, but I feel like he's regressed. And I'm like, no. So when you have the horrible mistakes on top of horrible play, that allows Mason Rudolph to play. And I think that offense is going to be better with Rudolph in there, but, we'll see how beholden they are to Levis. But, yeah, I was completely wrong. I swing and a miss. I swung hard enough to provide a steady breeze and nothing. So, you guys shouldn't feel bad about Pitts. You shouldn't feel bad. You shouldn't feel bad at all about, Christian Watson because, Will Levis. And I knew better. I did. So I will take that. But on the flip side of those coins, whenever you have a miss, your big miss, we're going to talk about what are you most proud of getting right this season. So Chase, we're going to come to you first for this one. What are you most proud of?
It wasn't a preseason call that I made, but it was an early season call that I made. I am most proud of being right on Kareem Hunt's value as a waiver wire pickup. You guys remember, I'm old, so I remember this clearly. But you guys remember when Roger Clemens, to again go back to a baseball metaphor here, but when he signed with the Yankees partway through 2007, he'd retired the year before. And when he came on and when it was clear he was going to sign with the Yankees, Susan Waldman absolutely lost her mind on the air. You guys remember that quote? Roger Clemens is standing in George's box. Oh my goodness gracious. And of all the dramatics. And she was just flipping out and everybody's like, calm down, Susan. You're going to have an aneurysm, right? Listen, that was me. When the report went out that the Chiefs were bringing Hunt in just for the look after the Pacheco injury, I was like, oh, no, he's in Reed's office. Oh my goodness gracious. We've seen it before. I was very aggressive on the waiver wire picking him up, and I got questions everywhere about it. Everybody's why? And one guy in my Scott Fishbowl league, one of the guys got on and was like, Chase, you're spending that much of your fab on this guy? Do you know something we don't know? And I said, listen, everybody thought he was washed. My co-hosts on Operation Domination, everybody. We were at the height of the Carson Steele fever dream that never was going to be and still is never going to be. Listen, we've already seen Hunt in Reed's offense in his career. At this point, neither Steele nor Pirine is a starting caliber NFL running back. I know CEH is there, but he's battling mental health issues. So best of luck to him. As somebody who deals with them myself, I'm not belittling him in any way, but even if he's on the field, he's still Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that has never been anything to be excited about. Hunt doesn't have to come off the field as a situational player like Steele, and Steele is a short yardage guy. Pirine is a pass guy. That's it. Hunt can kind of do both of those, especially in Reed's offense, and he can help complement Pacheco even after Pacheco comes back. He's only a must start as long as Pacheco's out, and I expect it to be a pretty frustrating situation even after Pacheco returns. But Hunt needs to be a roster fixture for everybody for the rest of this season. I'm thrilled that he worked out. I have him all over the place, and like I said, having gone with that hero RB strategy, he really has helped me weather the storm until some of these other guys have gotten back.
I absolutely love that. I really do. Because when all that was happening and everything, and everybody was like, Carson Steele, and I was laughing. I was like, guys, this dude runs a 4.7 40. He is not coming into that offense and being the dude, regardless of how badly you want him to be. I didn't think Pirine was that guy either. And I was like, whoever they bring in, I'm like, it's going to be like one of those things. I'm like, I don't know who's going to be the guy, but I know who's not going to be the guy.
Right. Yeah.
So I love that. I love that call. But Rich, I'm going to come to you next, and I'm going to ask you, who are you most proud of? What call are you most proud of this season?
Sure. So, and I'll be honest, this is actually, I'll be honest. I got some more crow to eat. There's a ton more crow on my plate because this season's just been bad all around. I really had to dig deep to try to find one that I was proud of. And, I will say I am proud of Deontay Johnson and what he's shown that he can do there in Carolina. Okay. I bought him everywhere I could, and I pounded the drum for him this offseason. I really thought that him and Bryce were the two pieces that each of them were missing to be able to produce. And I thought for sure that they were going to be great together, but it turns out it was always Johnson and Dalton. I was wrong on which quarterback in Carolina needed to get him the ball. So a little wrong there, but also I still kind of hit it right. I think he's a great buy for a contending team. Wait until next week, though. He's got a really rough matchup this week. I believe they're playing Denver, right? I'm pretty sure it's Denver that they're playing, and I know he's going to have a tough matchup with Surtain. So I would wait until next week. Wait until he falls off this week. The owner gets frustrated because he's been up and down, and then he's got a decent matchup for the rest of the season. So,
okay, I mean, I respect that. That's not too bad. So, what I feel best about getting right this season, and it's kind of alluding to, what Chase had mentioned earlier, how everybody, and I mean everybody, was on the Sam Laporta Express. Like our own Stacy Perez, she has a bracelet that says Laporta supporter. Like she was all in, and everybody was all in. He was getting drafted like in the late first round, and he was slowly creeping up as the season was going on. And I felt like a man out there on the island because I was like, for the price that people are paying for Sam Laporta and Puka Nacua, at their price, it was just way too much this offseason. And everybody's like, oh, well, look what they did last year and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is a whole different year.
No, I
won't include Puka because Puka got injured, so we don't know what Puka would have been doing these past 7 weeks. So I'm not even going to include him. So this is all about Sam Laporta. I caution people. I was like, Sam Laporta had 10 touchdowns last season. I'm like, so we got to kind of pump the brakes a little bit because I don't know if that double-digit touchdown output is going to be something that's going to be replicated, especially so soon because there's playmakers in that offense and Goff spreads it around. So not something to bank on. And then I was like, whenever anyone has a record-breaking season, you shouldn't expect them to break it again. Like you shouldn't expect them to repeat it. I mean, records by nature tend to be outliers. Like the only person I really can think of in recent memory who just kept breaking records is track and field Sydney McLaughlin in the 400-meter hurdles. Yeah, we're not talking about football, but every time she steps on the track, she breaks that world record again. That is weird. Never happened. So I'm like, so we shouldn't expect Laporta to repeat what he did last year. I'm like, I still think he'll be good, but the price of what people were paying for him, I didn't think it was worth making that investment just because I did not think there was any way he could return that. You're buying him at what his absolute ceiling was last season, not knowing like whatever his true range of outcomes could be. I didn't expect what's happening right now, because like he was drafted, at the end of like tight end 1. He was drafted as tight end 1 at the end of round 1 and everything. But now he's giving you, what is he, tight end 21 on the season, with 14 catches, 224 yards, and 1 touchdown. So it is not what you expected. It is not what you expected at all. And, because we didn't know what to expect, I didn't expect another record-breaking season. So I was telling people, calm down. Like, we shouldn't act like he is automatically in the Hall of Fame and the best tight end that ever lived because of those 10 touchdowns last season. So let's slow down. So I feel really, really good about getting that right. And the reason why I let you go first, Rich, is so I could talk about Laporta right now, because my next question that I'm going to ask, without using any of these answers that we had before, who we got right and who we got wrong, what has surprised you most this season? And Chase, I'm going to come to you first. I'm curious.
Well, Sam Laporta's usage is actually what has surprised me the most. What the fly and flip are they doing with this dude? I mean, listen, I'm with you. We all expected some touchdown regression, and I said all off season 2 the idea that I wasn't going to have a lot of Sam Laporta, even though I love him. I've got a ton of him in Dynasty because I drafted him like hell that year. Mm-hmm. But the usage change from last year to this year has just made no sense to me whatsoever. When I looked at him coming into the season, I didn't expect 10 touchdowns again, but nothing substantially had changed in that offense in terms of the weapons they were surrounded him with, in terms of the coordinator and everything else. But it's almost like they went from overlapping his route tree and his usage rate with Amon-Ra St. Brown, where it was working, to overlapping it with Jamison Williams. When they've actually thrown him the ball this year, he's been good. He's got an 82% catch rate. That's better than last season. He's gaining a ton of yards per catch every time he touches it. But he's gone from averaging over 7 targets per game to averaging less than 3. They just are not giving him the ball. Maybe they can rediscover him now that Williams is going to be out on suspension for a couple of weeks. I hope they can rediscover him and figure out what works again. I'm still interested in buying him in Dynasty if his owner is rightfully frustrated but foolishly desperate to get rid of him. But his usage change from last season to this season is what just floors me the most. I didn't expect 10 touchdowns, but I expected more than 3 looks a guy-to-learn game. So that's what shocked me so far.
Oh, so I want to tell you, I got a trade offer earlier today for Sam Laporta. Like, somebody, they hit me up. They approached me like, I want to give you Sam Laporta. You give me back a 2025 third. I had to go look and see if he was injured or something.
Yeah, did he break a hip? What
did he kill someone? Like,
he get picked up? Did he Rashee Rice himself? What happened?
Yeah. So it was one of those things where I'm like, all right, there's got to be some news that I don't know of yet, because I couldn't accept that fast enough.
You're right. Yeah, no, I would jump on him for a third. Hell yeah.
Dang.
I love Dynasty owners on tilt. It makes me so
I bet the rest of the league loved that too. I bet the rest of the league
there were dudes pissed right off. Yep.
There was a little chatter. I'm like, hey man, he came to me. Like, what am I supposed to say? Who am I to tell him no? Like, I want to make his
right.
You want to get rid of Laporta? I'll help you, man.
I'll help you. Let me help you.
Third, but yeah, that's great. Rich. All right, so same thing. Can't use any of the answers you had before, but what has surprised you the most this season?
Sure. Well, actually, I didn't realize that this was going to work out so well, but I'm not going to have to say too much because the thing that surprised me the most was Kareem Hunt going back to the Chiefs. Yeah. I'm not reusing any of my own.
We've all kind of recycled, but
yeah. We're covering all perspectives, guys.
Yeah. No. It's crazy how he's just as explosive as he once was, and that's the thing that gets me about myself with this whole thing, because I was one of those people that was like, oh yeah, Steele, he's going to be the guy. You want to share a P. I had Steele and P. Ryan everywhere just in case it was one of those two. And it was like the day I remember watching like the first snap and Kareem Hunt being there, and I like it clicked in my head and went, oh yeah, I remember him in his rookie year. He won me my first championship.
Yeah.
What am I doing? But by that point, it was already well too late. So yeah, no, I was absolutely floored, and I shouldn't have been. That was the thing, is I really shouldn't have been. But he's looking really good, over 20 points in each of his last 2 games. And like you were saying, Chase, you already said it all. So I'll just leave it at that. It's just, he's great.
Yeah. So for me, the part of the season that has surprised me the most, and it's really funny because we've talked about this guy also, Tua Tagovailoa. So what surprised me is that clearly he's better than everybody thought he was. Well, not necessarily better than everybody thought he was, but he's definitely more important to the Miami Dolphins than anyone thought he was. So all the Dolphin fans that were saying we need to get rid of Tua because we can bring somebody in, anybody can run this offense, blah, blah. No, you're wrong, because Snoop Huntley can't run it. Skylar Thompson can't run it. Jacoby Brissett couldn't run it last year and everything. So Tua is actually more important. Of the other seasons when he's missed time, like there was a drop in offense, absolutely, but it wasn't a full-blown stop. This offense absolutely went nowhere when Tua went down. I mean, a league worst 12.3 points a game? Really? Like, we're getting outscored by Justin Jefferson right now. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So they've only led twice this season, and that's because Jacksonville and Tennessee are terrible. So Miami right now is the worst team in the league. I don't care. The Panther fans, you can take a sigh of relief. Right now, the Miami Dolphins are the worst team in the league just because that offense is horrible. Tua comes back and makes them do something. All right, that's great. But I kind of feel like the last 5 weeks have just been so bad that they can't regain any type of composure. So, but yeah, so I'm going to be in the worst offense in the league very quickly after leading the league in scoring last year. In yards last year. It's a big mess. And it's all because, as Chase so eloquently said earlier, it starts with Tua. Tua is the straw that stirs that drink. And when he's in there, those playmakers make plays. When he's not in there, those playmakers are like, wow, I miss Tua. Like Tyreek. I think Tyreek was more excited than anybody that Tua could be coming back soon. So that is the biggest surprise for me this season. And it really shouldn't be a surprise because I knew the season was going to be a letdown. I told you, Rich, it was going to be a letdown. I just didn't know it was going to be a letdown in this fashion.
Yeah.
All right, so we took a look back. So now we're going to move forward in our next topic for tonight. We're Dynasty Fast Forward, where we're going to talk about, first question, who will be the most impactful rookie for the rest of the season? So from here, moving forward, who's going to be the most impactful rookie for you, Chase?
I'm going to ignore what I think is the fantasy-wise obvious answer for the 4 starting rookie quarterbacks, Williams, Daniels, May, Nix. For me, it's Brock Bowers. His quarterback situation sucks, but his usage can only improve in this post-Devontae Adams world that he's now living in. And he's been maybe the one exception to the rule we've kind of already mentioned to this season, vis-a-vis the tight end position being just a soul-sucking wasteland. He's done it all this year with that sucky quarterback situation and also without being reliant, a la Sam Laporta, on scoring touchdowns. He's only got 1 score on the year. The rookie running backs, I feel like are all stuck in these crowded committees and kind of backup roles. Most of the wide receivers haven't been fully able to emerge as consistent weapons yet. I think Neighbors is still going to be good, but other people on his team have emerged while he's been out with injury. Harrison has flashed, but he's been inconsistent. Will Reichard has been good, but he's still just a kicker. And so there's that. He's a dime a dozen because he's a kicker in the NFL and he's not named Justin Tucker. So for me, it's Brock Bowers.
All right.
I think that's the first time a kicker has been even mentioned on this.
They are. They are actually still a part of some dynasty. Actually, one of my dynasty teams, we do have kickers. So
yeah. No, absolutely.
All right, Rich. Same question to you, sir.
So I did not forego the easy answer, and I went with Jaden Daniels. And we already talked a lot about him before, so I just want to reiterate the fact that how electric he is. I mean, he's averaging 20 points per game. And The one thing that I will say that I am a little concerned on is he had I don't want to say that he had an easy schedule, but he had a really nice schedule for the first half of the season. This back half of the season is going to start getting a little bit more tougher. You see a lot more reds in those matchups. So, yeah, I'm a little worried, but even if he continues, as long as he continues to average, 18 points, 17 points, he's able to get you there. That championship week is against Atlanta. And I would be excited for that if I had Jane Daniels.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, for sure. For me, I'm not going to take a lot of time. My guy, Brian Thomas Jr. Like, I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. As Evan Ingram has returned from this injury, like the last couple of weeks, we see Christian Kirk. He seems like he is slowly disappearing. And I like Kirk a lot this season, but it's not like it's, his offense anymore. So I don't know if it's because they were over in England for the last 2 weeks, that maybe Thomas just likes bangers and mash or something like that. I really don't know. But he has really emerged as a favorite target in Jacksonville, so, and that offense, it seems like it's starting to get going a little bit. The run game seems a little more stable. Bigsby's actually doing his thing while ETN's out, so we could see a little more opportunity if that offense can sustain drives. And we have seen when you get in the red zone, Trevor Lawrence is looking for his guy, and that guy that he's looking for isn't Kirk, and it isn't Ingram so much, but he's looking for Brian Thomas. So I'm thinking, it's going to be I'm really excited to see how he finishes the season. Gabe Davis, non-existent. Like, I forgot that he was on the team, to be honest with you. So
they.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's who I'm looking for. Looking forward to. I think he's going to have a big, rest of season. All right, next question. We're going to go to, who are you trying to acquire? They may not help you this year, but in a dynasty, who do you want that could help you in 2025 or further out? Chase, come to you first.
I'm going to go with Roma Dunze on this one. I thought coming into the season and through the draft process, and I still think that he was always going to be too inconsistent this season to be anything more than useful as like a DFS dart throw in 2024. He's a rookie on a team with a rookie quarterback, and they have an established number one option there in DJ Moore. He's got a coordinator that likes to mix and match who gets the ball at any given moment. We saw him do that, in Seattle. And his skill set happens to overlap greatly with, by the way, a future Hall of Fame player at the same dang position. So I think we've seen moments of what we want to see from Roma Dunze and what we want him to be. I think he and Williams are going to be really fun to watch, putting my Packer fandom aside. It's going to be fun to watch those guys for a long time. It's not going to be easy to pry him away from whoever's got him right now, but he will be worth it in my opinion. I just don't think that for the rest of this season, he's going to have enough going on to make a difference this season.
I got you.
Yeah.
Rich, how about you?
I'm going to pivot a little bit from the show sheet just because of the fact that I felt like I all of a sudden was just reiterating everything that we've already talked about. So I was going to talk about Chris Godwin again. And then I was like, you know what? I just talked about Chris Godwin. So let's change it up a little bit. I'm going to go with the other guy that got injured and is out for the year. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk that we've talked a little bit about. I do think that he is going to be much better come as time goes on. I think that this year was a bit of a fluke. I think that honestly, I feel like a part of it was him getting the bag. Like I know that there's no like logical statistics behind this that can back this up, but I feel like a lot of times you see a guy get paid and then maybe they don't perform as much, it kind of happens sometimes. And so I kind of felt like he got the bag and maybe it was just because of the fact that he was out for so long in the beginning of the season and everything that he never got the time to get that chemistry back going with Purdy and everything like that with the rest of the team. But I think that he is further down the list on most people's radar, where a lot of the owners are already probably pretty frustrated with him before the injury. Now the injury happened. I think he's somebody that you could go and get for on your dynasty teams for cheap, or at least cheaper than what he would have been.
Yeah, I respect that. As for me, like, it's a guy that I was scooping up this season because, I was on the island again, but I'm scooping this guy up, and he only has 28 targets, 27 receptions on the season, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's the wide receiver 34 on the season. But from where I was drafted him, I really came up, because I got him for peanuts. People would rather have like some other guy. Like, hold on, what's This or that pie bet. Somebody's getting pie. Somebody is getting pied because pie bet. Khalil Shakir is the guy that I'm talking about for those of you who don't know. I love Khalil Shakir coming into this season. Like ever since Dorsey got fired, I've seen that him like slowly becoming like more of a staple in that offense. And I wanted more of that going into the season. But there's a lot of people that were telling me that Curtis Samuel was going to have a better season than Khalil Shakir. And somebody even bet me, a pie bet that would happen. His name is Rich Sickles, but I'm not, going to put him on the spot or anything. But yeah, it's just great. But I look at that, even with Shakir missing some time, he is still absolutely dominating Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel, do you know that Curtis Samuel now only has 6.45 points more than newly acquired Buffalo Bill Amari Cooper has scored while he's been in Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wrong.
I was right there with you, dude. I didn't say anything earlier about it, but I was right there with you.
A lot of seasons left to be played, so I love that. But all right,
it don't matter how much season is left; it's over. It's over.
Nothing's over. Yeah, I ain't hear no bell. Nothing's over. Okay, so last question. Now, who are we trying to unload from our rosters? Right now, and hopefully can still get a decent return. So, Chase, who's your guy?
It's going to be hard to sell him maybe right now because we're all kind of pissed off at life over him. But Christian McCaffrey's a guy that I'm trying to get rid of right now, and I feel terrible saying it, but he's approaching that running back age cliff, and he's actually really old, a lot older than the 28 years that he's carrying around based on the way that he's been used over his career and his injury history. Anyway, it's like he's got another 3 years on his body to begin with. He's been a weapon like no other in fantasy football when he's been healthy, but between his age, the roster headache that he's been, and the return that I think you still can get for him, I feel like it's time to cut bait on him. If you do try to sell, we mentioned it earlier with some other guys, try to talk up the hype of him right now with his supposed maybe week 10 coming back and the fact that he's the defending top non-quarterback fantasy asset. There was a reason that he was a lot of people's, first overall pick coming into this season because of that weapon he can be when healthy. That turned out, his injury turned out way worse than we all thought it would, but I still think you can get something for him based on his name recognition. I would be trying to get rid of him.
Understand. And Rich, real quick, who's your guy that you're trying to get rid of?
Sure, I'll make this quick, and I'm probably going to catch some flack for it, but that's okay. Anthony Richardson is somebody that I am trying to move on from. I was a little concerned to begin the year, and as he's come back, it still hasn't looked great. I'm really concerned over his passing production. His short to intermediate throws has been just not great. It's been bad. He's got a 49.1 passing grade according to Pro Football Focus. There's really not much to say beyond that. I'm just nervous about it. So yeah, if I have Anthony Richardson, I'm trying to find somebody that is looking at that rushing upside that he hasn't even been doing that much of this year either, and trying to offload him.
Yeah. So for me, mine's going to be really simple. Mine is Breece Hall. And I know a lot of people saying like, Breece Hall, man, why are you trying to get rid of Breece Hall? Well, I'm running back at Verse and Dynasties. And I know that somebody's going to pay a lot of money for him, especially because he had a really good game last time he played. But he plays for the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers is his quarterback. And the Jets are going to jet. Aaron Rodgers is going to Aaron Rodgers. And so what's going to happen? What is he going to look like when Rodgers says, you know what? I'm audibling out of every run play, and I'm throwing it to my guy. I'm not even dumping it off to you in the backfield. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of him. And I am okay missing the big games that he will have because I won't have the headache of those really bad games that he has because of the organization and the quarterback that he has. All right. So we're going to the final topic of the night, and this is for you and you only, my friend Chase. So we're going to do our Dynasty rapid fire. We're going to do buy or sell. So rapid fire questions about Dynasty players for the rest of season. And this is going to be the vet edition. And you don't have to add anything more than just whether you're buying or selling. All right. You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's start off with Patrick Mahomes, buy or sell?
That's a buy.
Understood. DeAndre Swift, buy or sell?
Oh, sell that dude.
Yeah, I've been selling them for years. Terry McLaurin, buy or sell?
Buy him.
Love it. Mark Andrews, buy or sell?
Sell.
Okay. And round it off for the night, the New York Jets, the whole team.
If that Jets name is Brees, Braylon, or Garrett, I'm still buying. Anybody else? No. You can get rid of all of the East Rutherford Packers.
I love it. And with that, we have finished yet another episode of Dynasty 365. I love it, guys. Everybody who is watching us on YouTube or listening to us from your favorite podcast platform, thank you very much. And a special thanks to our guest tonight, Chase Thornton. Thank you for holding it down with us. Like, we really appreciate it. Chase, tell the people where they can find you and your fantastic content.
All right. If you are not a chaser yet, you can find me on the X Twitter machine there at STT Chase FFB, like it says on the screen there. You can find my thoughts on current fantasy goings on. Tag me, message me. I will respond. You can catch me Wednesday nights after Dynasty 365 here on Operation Domination podcast on Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We air at 8:30 Central Time, so I got a little bit of time, but catch me over there. The lead host Dan Mater, Adam LaRue, Chris Dowhauer, myself, we preview the week. We give all of our thoughts and advice on all things fantasy football. And you can also get over there to fantasysportsadvice.network for a social media experience like none other you've ever had. It's all fantasy sports all the time. None of that other bullpucky you hate, the politics and everything else. You can find my weekly rankings there, articles from myself and others. You can interact directly with me and your other favorite fantasy sports personalities. Download the app, the whole 9 yards. Thank you guys for having me on. It has been great.
Oh, we greatly appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Love it. Make sure to follow us all on Twitter. Like Chase just told you, can find him at STT Chase FFB. It's on the screen. You can find Rich at Rich Sickles GBM, the ginger beard man himself. Tell him that his beard is pretty. He likes that. And you can find me at Dynasty Deviant. I love it. I love it. You guys, I feel like we're going to win, like starting week 8. We're going to just go crazy. Subscribe to the YouTube show or wherever you consume your favorite podcast. While you're there, please like, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. We really love interacting with our fans. So, like all of the Fantasy and Frames shows, go to fantasyandframes.com, as I just said. But you can also check out our shows on Wednesday nights. We're Dynasty 365. We start off Fantasy and Frames Wednesdays, and we have all your Dynasty needs. Following us is Fourth and Frames, and they got you covered for your redraft content. And then after them is Shoot the Gap, and they are holding it down, getting shout-outs from CBS bigwigs about, their IDP content. So check them out. And also tune in on Tuesdays, and you can catch the Ginger Beard Man also, along with the other Fantasy and Frames guys for the Waiver Wire show. Again, thank you so much to our viewers, our listeners, people in the comments, people on Twitter. We love and appreciate you all. Good night, everybody. Now let's go out and dominate these Dynasty leagues. Take us out.